Hello, my name is M.W.Burnette. I am a home studio music producer, songwriter, and recording artist, and this is my video diary. So I've been talking lately about the album that I've been working on called Porcelain, which is a Christmas album, but I am intentionally avoiding sort of the usual Christmas music tropes. There are no bells in any of the songs, no references to snow or angels or carolers or presents or Christmas trees or any of that stuff. And the music does not sound like Christmas music. This is a straight up rock and roll record, and I promise you that. And the reason for that is because I feel like we have a lot of cognitive associations with all of the accoutrements of Christmas. All of those other symbols and narratives and so on and so forth, they make us remember our experiences of Christmas. But we can relate to those things, but not necessarily the actual story that lies at the foundation of it. Instead, I feel like we look at Mary and Joseph and the shepherds and the wise men and so on and so forth as kind of these mythological characters doing mythological deeds in a mythological story that doesn't really apply to us, that we can't really relate to. It's something that happened that affects us, but we can't really put ourselves in their shoes and realize that the things that they experienced have relevance to the things that we experience in our lives as well. And so with this album, as I'm trying to really focus attention on the human experience that those people went through so that we can relate to that. So today's topic, I'm talking about the song Upside Down. And it isn't specifically about Christmas itself. It's about the ministry that Jesus came to the world to accomplish. I think one of the key elements of all of Jesus' teaching from beginning to end was flipping on its head the idea of what it is to be powerful and what it is to be important. And I feel like Jesus makes this case over and over and over again that the way that God views importance and power and prestige is totally different from what we do. We tend to see people who have authority over others, who have money, who control businesses or armies or nations, municipal bodies, that sort of thing. People who can give orders and have them obeyed. People who don't have to do their own grunt work. We see those people as being powerful and important. And I think that Jesus, a lot of elements in the story of Jesus' life and his ministry and his teachings really flip that upside down. And he says, no, the people who God sees as really important are people who are humble, who are unknown, who go unseen and unrecognized, who silently go about their work, serving other people and making the world a better place for them. And so that's what this song Upside Down is about. It's kind of loosely based on some stuff from the Sermon on the Mount. But it's just this idea that God's kingdom does not look like the kingdoms that we know. It's just totally backwards from our understanding of things. And kind of a point that I want to make is that our understanding of the world causes a lot of trouble because it does not align with God's intent. As I feel like we have this understanding of the way things work, and because of that, things don't work, is we tend to mess things up. We're trying to superimpose our own kind of version of our kingdoms on top of God's foundation, and it's just not stable. God's intent, I believe God's intent was that we are all to be interdependent on one another. That's why there are so many of these parables about how everyone is interconnected, how He is the vine and we are the branches. Or when Paul talks about how all of the members of the body are incorporated together and one can't say to the other, I don't need you, because all are interdependent. And I think that in our versions of kingdom, we're trying to get away from that. We don't want to be dependent on anyone else. We want everyone to obey us so that we don't have to rely on them, or we want to have control over that dynamic. We don't. That's why we look at authority and power and see that as something desirable. See those people as being on the top because they have that control. They don't have to. Their security isn't subject to the whims of all of the other people that they're dependent upon. No, they have control. They can force those people to do the things that they need. And so that's the way that we see power, and that's not the way that God intended us for this to work. Is He made all of us different. We have different talents, we have different abilities, we have different resources. But the purpose there is that we can all share those things, and by sharing them, we can make the world better for all of us. All of us are enriched by our diversity and by sharing those things. And that doesn't happen through force. It happens through compassion and cooperation. And so those of us, and I say us, hoping that I'm one of those people. That's something I'm going to strive to do. Whether I succeed or not, I don't know. But it's something to strive to do, is to be a servant. Because all of us, if we all commit to that, to sharing the things that we have with other people, to making sure that nobody has to go without, there's always going to be more of us who don't have that kind of authority, that are not sitting on top of the anthill. All of us, through those individual collective efforts, that represents the real power in this world, is the collected efforts of all of these many individuals doing just a little bit to make things just a little bit better for each other. That combined effort lifts all of us. And that, I think, when we live in that kind of community, that is the way that God's design works. The power is on the bottom. It's just distributed. It's not consolidated in individual people at the top, the way that we tend to look at it. And when we look for those people at the top, a lot of things start to fall apart. There are people who are left out of that system because it doesn't work. They can't contribute in the ways that the people at the top say they must. So there are just a lot of cracks in that situation, and a lot of the problems that we run into. I feel like, take whatever problem you want to look at. I think that I can come back and point to some way that this messed up model that we have causes so many of the problems that we experience. Whether it's war or violence or drug abuse, or so many of those things just go back to us having a flawed view of the way that the world is supposed to work, because it's at odds with God's design. God's design flips our kingdom upside down. So anyway, I've rambled a bit. I hope that I didn't totally lose you in there. But anyway, that's kind of what this song is about. Upside down is recognizing the inverted structure of God's kingdom and how it is totally opposite from what we would expect. And that was what He came to earth to tell us, is that you guys have got it backwards, but let me show you how it's supposed to work, and this is going to blow your mind. So anyway, thank you for sticking around. I'll see you next time.